Whilst the title of this video may seem like an intense and loaded question, it's one that must be asked. We've all seen countless people pulling the fat card, blaming all their problems on other people allegedly discriminating against them. Do these claims hold any weight? Well, let's see. Fat phobia is described as discrimination or prejudice towards fat people, which may seem simple on paper, but the people who claim to be the victims of fat phobia can't even decide who or what counts as fat. Examples of fat phobia are also very vague and could only be confirmed by mind reading, and any and all inconsequential things that upset a fat person are counted as targeted hate. Anything from a dirty look to, I don't know, a thin woman showing her face on the internet is considered a fat phobic attack by the average fat activist, showing a level of self-centered paranoia that's quite frankly hard to match. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We need some examples. Fat activists and body positive femcells like to blame all of their problems on fat phobia, even if, by their own standards, they're only mid-size or small fats. As I say in pretty much every video, the majority of Westerners are overweight or obese, so the smaller fats and even the medium fats barely stand out enough to garner such negative attention. One person springs to mind immediately here: Brie. You might remember her from my video reacting to her song Diet Culture, but it's fine if you missed it because I'm going to show her pathetic woe is me lyrics now. As you can see here, Brie isn't really that fat and looks like an average sized woman, and in a few places she'd actually be considered quite svelte. This is important to keep in mind when analysing her lyrics, as she seems to believe that she's fat enough to be viewed as a freak and maliciously targeted daily. Here are some of the most telling lyrics. And I know that their worst fear is to look like me, and that fact makes me want to kill somebody. I'm eating at the counter and you're talking about your weight. I usually don't hate you, but today I'm enraged. And I know at this point that everybody hates themselves and hates their bodies. But I've put in the work, yeah? I've done my time. I'm taking up the space that is rightfully mine. I have a sneaking suspicion that Brie has problems with others because of her malignantly jealous, insecure, and seemingly aggressive personality, but I'll let you make of those lyrics what you will. First of all, the idea that looking like this average woman is someone's worst nightmare is patently absurd, and her extreme rage in response to her imagined vilification points to an extreme level of self-centeredness and insecurity. She believes that she's special and unique enough to constantly attract the negative attention of others simply because of her looks, and it's in no way her own fault. Everyone apparently despises their bodies now, well, except for Brie, of course, and they project their insecurities onto her because they need a scapegoat. Now let's look at this in a rational manner. It is statistically impossible for everyone to hate their bodies, and Brie's constant use of hyperbole in a song that's meant to be serious makes her look unstable. If she was as self-aware and confident as she wants us all to believe, she wouldn't feel the need to write sanctimonious songs about how evil and discriminatory women are for having standards. She claims to be looked at with pity, which could either be her projecting onto others, her misreading things, or maybe she actually is being pitied for reasons apart from her size and appearance. Brie projecting malicious indignation and condescension onto others seems the most likely, and she seems like she lacks the awareness to be able to read a room. However, if she's as thoroughly angry, insecure, self-righteous, or miserable as she comes across in her work, people might give her the occasional sympathetic glance. That's a very British thing, especially up where I live, but I'm not entirely sure if people are like that in Nashville where Brie lives. To Brie, fat phobia is when people don't want to look like her, when people don't overindulge and give in to every craving like she does, when people discuss their bodies, when people supposedly dislike her due to her size. So in summary, fat phobia is a serious sounding buzzword that she can use to maintain the delusion that she's perfect and everyone else is the problem. At the other end of the scale, some genuinely large people use fat phobia as an excuse for people disliking them, despite their personalities being so repugnant and off-putting that they'd still be disliked if they looked like runway models. Anna O'Brien, a fan favourite on here, never fails to irritate people with her constant shouting, crying, passive aggression and entitlement. Her life has always been one of privilege, getting into university by a stroke of luck, going on free holidays and complaining the whole time, and getting paid to spew out toxic positivity. Anna, and her fans in particular, act as if she's this amazing ray of sunshine, fully embracing the quirky fat girl archetype even though she's over 40 and is always whining. Any criticism is immediately written off as fat phobia, even if the criticism has nothing to do with her size or eating habits. Think back to when she mocked kids who were dancing in the street, or filmed herself getting angry that someone said something to her when she was out on a run. Ah, that works for this video. Anna was partnered with RunLab at the time, and since Anna was being paid, she pretended to be really into running. Due to her lipedema and overall mass, she obviously struggled to run, and this was clear to see. One day she went out on one of her trudges, sorry but I can't bring myself to call it running, and someone said to her, "Good job getting out there." This was, of course, a patronising, fatphobic attack in Anna's mind. Weird how the woman who makes a living by calling herself the confidence queen is so easily triggered by banal things and often uses filters on her body positive social media platforms. She's no stranger to lying or omitting either, rarely being honest about sponsorships or the health journey she keeps oversharing with us all. Apart from her histrionic personality, Anna doesn't bring much to the table when it comes to being marketable as a content creator. If she was able to see anything through or wasn't the size of a vending machine after years of supposedly losing weight, there would be no persevering victim narrative that could be spun as inspiration. If there was no imaginary discrimination to fight, she wouldn't be able to act like a hero and would instead just look overprivileged, ungrateful, and quite hostile. So, if anything, being fat actually does her online image a huge favour. Amberlynn Reid falls into a similar ballpark as she's always throwing the word fat phobia about. I really didn't want to mention her in case it sent people down inescapable rabbit holes, but if you're here, there's a good chance you already know all about her. Amber is easily one of the most hated fat influencers due to her borderline criminal track record, being a documented and shameless abuser as well as a general arsehole. She's the epitome of lazy, as well as very arrogant and willfully ignorant. If her mouth moves, it's usually either because she's lying, or eating, or crying, or sometimes all three. She uses her failing health as a manipulation tactic whenever she's caught out, but does nothing to lengthen her lifespan and thinks she knows better than every doctor who's ever hit her with reality. The worst of it all is her prolonged abuse of her partners, her abuse of her pets, and her utter callousness. If you didn't know, she was laughing and joking, filming herself in the car on the way to visit a child's grave, which really screams empath, doesn't it? If you can't tell, she's a horrible person. And even if she was thin, she'd still be vile. And if anything, her layers of adipose tissue protect people. You see, if she was smaller and attractive, she'd find it easier to lure victims despite her horrific digital footprint. If anything, people hold back with people like her and Anna because they're scared of being called fatphobic. Tess Holliday, much like Anna O'Brien, built her image around being fat and proud, but as always, confidence is quiet, but insecurity is deafening. She's lied about her size and blatantly lied about having a restrictive ED, whilst also posting herself eating huge amounts of food without shame. If she was so much better than thin women and their allegedly fatphobic standards, she wouldn't constantly try to convince people that she's smaller than she is and barely eats. Anne Boleyn does this too, of course, crying fat phobia when people call her out on her continued failure to lose weight or tell the truth, and she filters her photos half to death and refuses to film weigh-ins. She calls her partners by masculine nicknames and tries to force us to believe that she's feminine and, in her own words, dainty in comparison to them. Marissa Matthews, Virgie Tovar, and Sonali Rashidwar are all much the same. All three are aggressive and entitled crybabies who blame fat phobia for people disliking them, putting out nothing but self pity and toxicity. If you model your online and real life presence around being a victim or a judgmental bully, don't be surprised when you cultivate an audience of victims or bullies who will turn on you the instant you stop pandering to them. Back to Brie, I heard on Reddit that apparently she used a medication that had weight loss as a potential side effect and felt too scared to tell her supposedly supportive fans. All of these people put me in mind of a group that I actually belong to: short men. I'd be lying if I said I'd never wanted to be taller or felt quite weak and small due to my height, but I'm fairly comfortable in myself and make it work. Being vertically challenged, as they say, isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and I personally don't love being one of the shortest people in every room I walk into. Every item of clothing that I buy usually needs alterations, and if I couldn't sew, it would get expensive real fast. Not to mention that the constant short jokes also got old really quickly. I wouldn't necessarily have chosen to be short if I was given the option, but it's really not the end of the world. However, not everyone is as alright with Munchkindom as I am now, and it only takes a quick Google search to find hundreds of short man forums full of self loathing and negativity. Although none of us can ever willingly grow in the same way that a fat activist can willingly lose weight, there is still an element of playing a card here. Like fat activists whose personalities can only be likened to the stench of expired milk, some short men blame Heightism for all of their problems. Not being taken seriously enough, people are heightist. Can't talk to women, women are heightist. Failed school, systemic heightism. All of one's personal flaws and failures are pinned onto everyone else, and everything is made about height. By constantly blaming other people and spending your whole life searching for perceived slights, you'll become the sort of person that no one really wants to be around. If you're focused on being small and weak and you always act timid or you drain the energy from every room you enter, it's no wonder that you're not taken seriously or your authority isn't respected. When a fat activist makes everything about size, their insecurity radiates so much that everyone has to validate their delusions and walk on eggshells to avoid setting them off. People may judge based on first appearances, but that includes your body language too, and you can't coast on looks forever without having anything to back it up. Even if you are stunning, a nasty personality will make people dislike you after any amount of time. It also stands out that the people who complain the most about beauty standards are the ones who pass the most judgment when it comes to appearance. If it really doesn't matter what you look like and it's all about what's inside, why try and guilt trip people into thinking that you're beautiful? Some fat activists and short men seem to have a very poor understanding of what beauty standards actually are, confusing looking presentable with some unattainable goal. If you look like someone who cares about themselves and you know how to style yourself, it doesn't matter what height or size you are. And at the end of the day, none of that even matters. You can be tall, short, fat, thin, whatever. If you're a jerk, you're a jerk. Fatphobia or heightism doesn't come into it. The call might have actually been coming from inside the house the whole time. Thanks for watching. It's probably been quite a short video compared to my others, but yeah, I don't know. Might do more live streams. Can't always be bothered with full length videos. Been up to other stuff. I got my driving license recently, so I've just not been in the house, hence no videos. Leave some possible topics for more videos. I'll have a look into them, see if there's any good nonsense to dissect. Goodbye.